Hey, me, you in there? Hello? Hello? Come on. Me. Hey, me.
Yes, you're so delicious, Mrs. Butterworth.
Hey. Me.
You're my little jelly bean.
Hey. Me, wake up. Wake up, me.
Oh, what?
Come on, we gotta do the Clone Wars review. Let's go.
It's Easter weekend. Don't I get an Easter break?
Me, you're a YouTuber. You don't get Easters off, alright? Let's go. Come on.
Fine, I'll do the stupid review.
So, The Rise of Skywalker Blu-ray came out recently, and I need it for a future video. So, I was at the store today, and I completely forgot to pick it up. And instead, I picked up this Megatron figure, and I thought it was really cool, so I got it. And because it was buy one, get one 50% off, I also bought Mixmaster. So, long story short, I didn't get that DVD. Does that make me a bad Star Wars fan? That bit was kind of dumb, actually. You know what? Me, cut that out in the final edit. I don't want that in. You gonna cut it out? Cool. All right. Well, anyways, let's get to the review. So we are on episode 8 of the Clone Wars. Together again. That's what the episode's called. Where we left off, we had Rafa and Trace and Ahsoka being captured again, and then they escaped, and then they got captured again. So it was kind of pointless. And I went on all last episode saying how much I liked the character growth and all that. I was like, yeah, even though nothing happened, we still got some great character growth from Rafa. And they opened this episode immediately flushing all that character growth down the drain. In the last episode, she went from totally unapologetic saying, no, none of this is my fault. It's Trace's fault for dumping the spice, to then being all, you know what, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have gotten us into this mess. I shouldn't have made a deal with the Pikes. But like in the beginning of this episode, she's all like, it's all Trace's fault again. I mean, I still agree with her. I mean, they wouldn't be in this scenario if Trace hadn't been an idiot and dumped all that spice. Trace. But it's like, she did also have some responsibility in this as well. I mean, Ahsoka is right. They wouldn't be in this situation if they never took a deal with the Pikes anyway. So she is still to blame in some ways. It's like all that character growth just went down the drain. She's back to being the same old unapologetic Rafa that she was at the beginning of last episode. So truly, last week's episode was pointless. You could have skipped it. The only thing really it did was tell us the backstory of why Trace and Rafa hate the Jedi. That's pretty much it. They could have found a way to throw that into this episode. Yet despite all of that, I still actually do like her in this episode. Rafa, I mean. She does have some really good moments, and she does grow more in this episode than the last one. And I like her a lot more. She's so much more of a Han Solo type in this episode, and I just thought that was really cool. Like when she swindles the Pike workers into getting spice for her so she can deliver it to the Pikes. It's just a really fun scene. She comes in there all like, I was told to come pick up a shipment, and you're all being lazy. Now get this shipment on board. Like, but we don't have you in that. I don't care. Do it now. It's like, okay, jeez. You want to argue with the big guys upstairs? You want me to get you? She turns into a basic Karen, except in a cool way. And not the one you get at McDonald's who always wants to see the manager over the smallest thing. Yeah, I also thought Ahsoka's plan to save the sisters was actually really cool. She self-sacrifices herself. That's kind of a redundant statement. Let me say that again. She sacrifices herself. That's better. And says, hey, look, take me prisoner. They hid the spice somewhere off-world. send them to go get it, give them one rotation, and if you don't, I'll tell you where their family is, you can kill them. Knowing that their family's already dead, so if they fail to deliver the spice, there's no family to kill, so she essentially saved their butts. But then, of course, you have Trace being an idiot who almost blows it because she's all like, wait, why are you doing this? No, that's not true. Like, that's one thing that still bothers me about this whole arc. Trace is supposed to have been in the underworld just as long as Rafa. Why does Rafa have more street smarts than Trace does? You know, I gave her a pass 2 episodes ago and she dumped the spice, but now I'm not anymore. She's really getting on my nerves. Man, is she an idiot. I actually wrote that down in my notes here. I literally wrote, Trace is still an idiot in my notes here. You know, to be fair, Trace isn't that bad in this episode. She's not as much of an idiot as she was in the last few episodes. She does get a few good, hits in and does some cool stuff. She gets into some cool action scenes here and there, but yeah. And she does get that cool scene where she kind of does like a Han Solo kind of maneuver with her ship and nearly rams into another ship when their guns and shields stop working. She's quick on her feet. She's not an idiot. She's just, an idiot. That's pretty much how I feel about Trace as a character at this point. I mean, there are moments when she's still likable, but I definitely like Rafa more at the end of this arc than Trace. I don't hate her. I feel like she could have been written better. But let's focus on the positives, because I actually really did like this episode. Maul shows up. I really loved that. I just really liked how scared the Pikes are of Maul. Because, like, when Ahsoka gives that whole, spiel about, like, oh yeah, let the Trace sisters go and take me instead. Like, the crime boss, the Pike boss knows that, hey, he's being played for a fool. His guys, his little right-hand man's all like, they're trying to trick us, right? And he's like, yeah, but I really don't have much of a choice. I have a price on my head if I don't get that spice delivered to Maul. Or they just say him. They don't call him Maul yet. But then, like, when they're actually on a holographic call with Maul, like, he has his hood up. I really like how they've changed his design up a little bit. They mixed, and I think they talked about this at Star Wars Celebration last time, but they mixed his design from the Clone Wars Season 5 with elements of his Crimson Dawn outfit from Solo. Just him with the hood over his head, being super intimidating, and he's controlling all these different crime syndicates and putting them against each other, being like, if you do not deliver the spice to me, I could simply give the job to Crimson Dawn. That Crimson Dawn name drop was kind of cool. I kind of figured that Crimson Dawn was formed after the Empire, but I guess he formed them pretty early on. But I just thought it was really cool to see Maul again, and seeing him control all of these crime syndicates kind of reminds me of Sidious and how he was controlling all of, both sides of the war during the Clone Wars. You see him with the hood over his head. He's in the shadows. He's controlling Dooku and the Separatists. He's controlling the Republic and the Jedi. And he's just like has his hand in everything. And seeing Maul do the exact same thing, copying his master and trying to control all these crime syndicates and actually doing a really good job. I love seeing like Maul from being like this assassin like apprentice to being this masterful mastermind. I guess that's a good way of saying that. Just this criminal mastermind. And like, it's these moments that make me think, yeah, this was truly Palpatine's apprentice. Like, he really took to heart Palpatine's lessons and really took after him. One of my problems with this episode was the lack of backstory for Maul. When we last saw Maul in the Clone Wars, he was being tortured by Palpatine with lightning, and he just killed his brother, and he took him prisoner. So now he's suddenly in charge of the criminal underworlds again. Now, I do know there was a comic released called Son of Dathomir, which detailed Maul's escape, and it was this whole big story. I'm not really going to go into depth with that story right now. So I do already know the backstory, but for those who didn't read that comic, that was based on old episode plans for the Clone Wars that never got made, I'm sure it's very confusing for your audience. And again, it also makes me feel like 12 episodes really wasn't enough for a final season, and really kind of makes me wish we had gotten another story added in here as well. A lot of people have been complaining about this story arc, feeling like it was kind of a filler arc, wasn't really that great, and I can understand where they're coming from. Clone Wars has always been filled with these kinds of arcs, and it's definitely not the worst arc in all of Clone Wars, but When you only have 12 episodes for your final season of the Clone Wars, you'd think you would want to have it all focused on building up towards that final big epic moment, the Battle of Mandalore, the Siege of Mandalore. I feel like she probably would have wanted to add an extra episode or two to explain Maul's return for those who didn't read that comic book. I mean, we are talking about the same franchise. I thought it was totally okay to throw a dead Palpatine suddenly back from the dead again in the final movie of the final trilogy of the Skywalker saga with absolutely no explanation. So I guess I shouldn't be that surprised. I liked the scenes with Maul. I thought they were really great. And I think those scenes were handled pretty well in this episode. I just wish there was more. Especially for those who have no idea what Maul's doing here. The ending of this episode feels really rushed and very crammed in. Because right when they get back to Coruscant, after they escape the Pikes and everything's all good, they rush this sort of ending with Trace and Rafa and Ahsoka, where she's talking about, yeah, I left the Jedi Order. And they're like, you can't run from who you are. You're really a Jedi, whether you want to admit it or not. And I'm wondering if that's really the lesson Ahsoka's supposed to be learning in this arc, because all throughout Rebels, Ahsoka still goes around saying, I'm not a Jedi. I am no Jedi. I left the Jedi years ago. I'm not a real Jedi. Like, even though she acts like a Jedi or how a Jedi should be, she still goes around acting like she's not a Jedi. It's I've never really understood that. It's like, you're a Jedi, Ahsoka. Accept it. Even if you don't feel like one, you are one. And that's kind of like the lesson she's learning here, but like, it doesn't stick, I guess. And then the Mandalorians show up. I mean, we see them kind of like following Ahsoka throughout the whole episode, and they show up at the end, and they're like, yo, hey, Ahsoka, you remember me? I'm Bo-Katan. I used to be part of Death Watch, but don't worry, Death Watch is not a thing anymore, so you can trust me. We have a common enemy. Here's Maul. You have 5 minutes to decide to come with us or not. Let's go. That's pretty much just how it ends. It's like, what? Ahsoka's like, oh, I don't want to go. It could lead me back to the Jedi. But that's where you should be. Yeah, I guess you're right. Okay, I'm coming, Bo-Katan. That was kind of quick. Would have been kind of nice to see Bo-Katan have to more convince Ahsoka to join up with her. I mean, seeing as last time Ahsoka saw Bo-Katan, she was trying to kill her. And she also got her booty slapped by her in the same episode, so that also happened. Yeah, so I feel like this should have been at the beginning of the next episode, and we really should have seen more of Trace and Rafa really having to deal with this fact that Ahsoka was a Jedi. It just doesn't really feel like anything was resolved between them. It just feels like someone hit a button and said, boom, your characters are different. It just didn't feel natural to me, personally. I know I've talked a lot about the negatives of this episode, but I did actually genuinely enjoy it. I still feel like out of all of the episodes, it's, at least for this arc, it's definitely one of the better ones. Mostly because it's done. As I've said with all the other episodes before with this arc, I was like, yeah, it was alright. It's not that great, but it's overall okay. Not much to say, though. This one, it's kind of the same way. It's like, it was good. It was definitely better than the other three. I still think the second one is probably the best out of all of them, to be honest. Except for, Trace needlessly dumping all that spice, being an idiot. Out of all the arcs, though, I'd say this one's my least favorite. The Bad Batch was way better. And despite the fact that it was very rushed, or at least the ending was very rushed, it got me excited for the next arc. I mean, we're going to get to see the Siege of Mandalore, which has only been hinted at, in Rebels and the Ahsoka novel, so I'm really excited to see that. Well, anyway, that's all I have to really say about this episode. If you liked this episode, I really wish there was some way you could show that, like, if there was some sort of button with, like, a thumbs up sign on it, you could be like, hey, I liked this episode. I want to click that something to show that I like that. Oh, and you know what, also, as well, it would be nice if you could be, like, notified of any of my future episodes. Like, if there was, like, some like, big red button or something like that, like a subscription or something. That would be so cool, right? Yeah, that would be really cool. Maybe even, like, leave a comment or a message of some kind to be like, hey, this is what I thought of your video. I really liked it, or I hated it so much. I wish there was some... What's that? What's that down there? What's that? Oh, there is something like that. There's a like button. And a dislike button, but you can ignore that. There's a subscribe button. and a little notification bell thing. What? And there's a comment section. What? Well, you know what? That's awesome. If you really did like this stuff, you should check that stuff out down there. Maybe click a few of those buttons, see what they do. That would be great. But in all seriousness, though, thank you guys so much for watching this episode and watching all the way to the end. If you did, the very few of you that do, I check my analytics. I know how many of you actually watch the full length of my videos. So, if you are one of those people, hi, thank you so much for that. Anyways, tune in until next week where I may or may not release this episode on time for once. So, yeah, I look forward to that. From the deepest part of my heart, thank you guys so much for watching, and have a good one.